We wanted to cut through all the media hype and just do a show about typical musicians, not pop stars or touring pros. They're a tiny fraction of all the musicians out there. We just wanted to focus on serious, practicing musicians, students, adults, amateurs, educators, young and old. Ask about the music they make, why they do it, what they practice. Actually get right into the nitty-gritty of the musical process.
I record every rehearsal. So in studying the tapes, I will hear things, or maybe hear things differently than I heard on the podium. And I take Post-it notes, and I write things on the Post-it notes, and I'll stick it in the score. And that way, as we're playing along, it'll be a reminder to me, okay, here I need to be mindful of what's going on in the trumpet section. And so I'll listen to the trumpet section, maybe with elephant ears that night for that particular passage. Everyone, let's play it. We're going down by semitones. And I'm listening to this sound, this massive sound of a 50-member ensemble. And what determines what I do? As I'm listening, while I'm conducting, while the musicians are playing, I make a determination when things happen, when things go wrong. And I break it down into three components. I'll deal with it later. I'll take care of it now, or it'll take care of itself. Eileen, can we get more of the crotale sound? Okay. More of the crotale. Okay, you're playing the crotales louder? Louder. I'll take the music apart. Okay, can I hear it? If there are several different things happening at a particular time, melody, counter melody, there could be some moving inner parts, there could be accompaniment, and there may be some rhythmic gestures. I will hear all of those individually and then put it all back together. That is so nice when you do that. I love it when you do that, but we need to make certain that we're consistent with that. Again, 4 before I.
So those were college musicians. They're highly motivated. They've got years of practicing and expert instruction behind them. They sound pretty good. Well, there's a whole other world of young and old, highly motivated musicians out there, and they don't sound as good as the players we just heard. That's the way it is. Maybe they just haven't developed the skills yet. Maybe they never will.
Until 6 or 7 years ago, I'd never held an instrument in my hands, and so this is quite a thrill. Some of our kids played instruments, and They seemed to be having so much fun, and it wasn't always appreciated by them, the opportunity they had. And we were many times sort of sat around thinking, gee, wish we had that opportunity when we were kids. And all of a sudden, I don't know if you know the history of the Second Wind Band, but it turned out that we weren't the only parents who felt that way. And some of our friends got together, and one night when they were perhaps drinking a little more than they should have, and Second Wind was born. First concert we played at, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was our repertoire. And the kids all played, and they'd been playing for 2 or 3 years. And our band conductor, Laura Mercer, who's well known to you, kept us hidden. And then we came out to play in front of a packed auditorium, about 700 people, and the kids all looked around and said, "Oh my God, parents!" And they were astonished by this. And we played our little rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and they did a wave. It was remarkable. The kids all, just... Anyway, so we felt very proud, and the rest is history. We've been doing it ever since.
Everybody could do this if they wanted to. And I think if you can just sort of explain to them that theory, that it's just a skill first. And then you have to become a part of a group of people who can help you develop more.
My name's Bill Watts, and I'm from Annapolis Royal, and I'm up here with the Annapolis Royal Community Band. I went to school in England, and they had a school orchestra that was string oriented, and I didn't want anything to do with that. And there was a traditional jazz boom going on about the time I was old enough to start listening to stuff, and I wanted to play trumpet in a jazz band. And the metalwork teacher, Mr. Howells, Mr. Howells, right? He was a Welsh guy, and he was into brass, and so apart from the school orchestra, he'd have you down the metalwork room, and a couple of us bought horns and started trying to play a little bit. Oh, I stopped completely after that, and did other things for years and years, and then the Annapolis band was started by a trumpet player from the little army band that they had at Cornwallis. He put an ad in the paper, said he wanted to start a community band, and I got the horn out, and I played it maybe 10 times in 20 years, and started all over again, and haven't stopped since then.
They have a time set aside in the day where they go and practice, and they practice every day. And some of them have a lot of obligations too. First of all, they may be a practicing doctor or business person who is busy all day long, and even in having some practice time in practicing their career in the nighttime. So they really don't have time. So I know that they get up early in the morning, and have worked it out with their families, of course, and they get up at 6 o'clock and practice 6 to 7, and that's how they start their day.
And they say that when you're young, that's the time to learn. And what do you do when you pick it up 45 years later? You just do your best.
I do a lot of scales. I got that Jamie Ebersole book, right, and the 3 modes of the 12 scales, so that's 36 modalities, and halfway through it, trying to commit them all to memory, and trying to extend the range a little bit, and I do a lot of long tones.
And you probably don't realize what's involved in learning to read music as an adult beginner. It's a totally different language, and it took me it's still taking quite a while to catch on to this new language. I mean, I've learned a couple of foreign languages, and I don't think they were nearly this difficult. So, and when children learn to read in school, they really don't remember the process of learning to read. As an adult learning to read music, it's very apparent that it's a whole new language, and you feel stupid, to put it mildly.
And it's just not something that you can pick up today be you know, a wonderful player right off the bat. It takes a lot of time and support and encouragement, because it takes a lot of time to get from A to Z on an instrument, and you spend a lot of time at A.
But I really believe that anybody who wants to learn an instrument and is prepared to put in the time will make lots of progress.
I'm 99% sure I got a tin ear. I mean, I don't have a great ear at all, and not a great talent. Otherwise, I couldn't have stayed away from it for as long as I did. So you can do it and progress and have a lot of fun with it without ever really going to a very high level.
I go back to the teacher. The teacher is so important in school. Music starts there with young people. It doesn't start at the home as much as it starts in school. The instruments are there and they're going to play. And the teacher can motivate them and say, this is good, this is bad, let's work this out. Or they say, that's all right, you know. In other words, we have a phrase in our business, if you don't phone it in. Don't phone it in. You know, get on the phone and say, this is what we're going to do. You get in there, you get in the trenches and do it. Don't phone it in.
Okay? Can I hear clarinets and horns right there, please? Clarinets and horns. Ready? Now with that. Ta, ta, and you guys can help separate it a lot. Stop. 1, 2, ready, 2, together. Da, 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 da. Better. Can you do this though? Instead of ta, ta, ta. How about ta, ta, ta? A little sting on it right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta. Okay, well, no, it has to be right notes. But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Basically, we start from scratch, from not knowing how to open the case properly without dumping it on the floor.
Ready? 2, again, play. Yes. Okay, here's how that's marked. Just in case you're not sure. This is, guys, if you're marking accents, it's just like this. It's just like a little diminuendo. You start the note loud, and then you get out of the way. Ta, ta, ta. Remember Dr. Grant talked about this at she said it's like a mini diminuendo. It's like hitting the notes on the bells. Ding, 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 and that's exactly what we look for there. Good. Low brass, clarinets and flutes and trumpets. You've been listening to all.
And we go through the basics would be how to hold the instrument without damaging it, how to clean it without damaging it, how to set it up repeatedly without damaging it, now where to put it on your face, what to do with your fingers, how to deliver air through it, how to get the vibration through it, how to modify the vibration, and so it goes.
We gotta wait, please, everyone. Listen to what's going on around. Here we are. 8th notes, slurred. Tara, right here. Staccato, and watch the tempo. It's going to change. Triplets, bells, please.
So by the end of grade 9, I would hope that they would be able to take a band piece and independently solve the rhythmic and pitch problems in it.
Back row, 8th notes running smooth. Don't let them slide, watch here. Ready, we join them. Awesome sound, now just nice and full.
We could probably do a sight read of the piece quite successfully, and they would certainly be able to go to a practice room and work out, for the most part, that which is really independence as a musician, to be able to take your instrument, be able to make a good sound, be able to interpret the theoretical concepts and translate them into tone, and to do it accurately, so that you could play basically with any other literate musicians anywhere.
2,
because of the technical demands of what actually takes place when kids play and how complex that is, there are, and there have been shown to be in MRIs and CAT scans, all kinds of dendrites and crossover synapses that occur between the left and the right side that just don't occur in things other than fine arts driven activities. So I think the spin-off is it makes for more creative problem solvers, more creative thinkers. But initially, there's something special about playing music for other people. And I try to show them right away that it's our job to make the music have an effect on the people that hear.
The eighth notes need to be light. If you play them lighter, it will go easier. Ta, 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 ta. You should be thinking of breathing at least after the first note in bar 3. You have to have air there. You'll never make this line without it. You should mark that, please. Trumpets, third bar after. You can feel that if you get a breath there, you've got enough air to take. 2, 3, up. Ta, 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 go, ta. Better.
To me, the most significant thing that I'm trying to get them to do is to make a good sound with a sound fundamental, embouchure and breath control, and everything in my mind comes from that. Articulation, the use of the tongue would then be something that we've been working on with the grade 7s. Extending their range, hand position and smoothness of technical considerations when it comes to woodwinds, flexibility and strength and sensitivity for brass players inside the rim of the mouthpiece with the lips so that they're able to shape pitches. The concept of playing in an ensemble and playing together and balancing and matching pitch with not only the other people in the section, but the other sections in the group. Probably initially in unison so that everything's locking in and things are sounding like they should and people are getting used to hearing, oh yeah, okay, I'm playing the same note as the clarinet. And it does sound like the clarinet note. Oh, and the tuba's out of tune or whatever. And then when the music starts to break itself down into sections where you have a melody per se that half of the clarinets may be playing and the flutes and half of the trumpets. And then there's inner parts that take place inside the band in the middle sections like horns and trombones and baritones, and then a bass line with tubas, and then trying to find out how their particular job fits into the overall picture of the music as a whole. And that presents a whole other slate of left and right brain crossovers of how to balance. Am I tonguing that note correctly? Am I playing within the pulse that is generated by the band? How am I finishing my note? How am I starting my note? Should these notes be legato or staccato separated? It becomes such a complex group of activities.
Here's what I heard. Ta, 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 tick, tick, ta, 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 ta. It's got to be tongued and it's got to be solid. We need an accent. Ta, 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 first 4 notes. Trumpets, bells, ready? 2, 3 after 1, 2.
I would rather have my band play musically and beautifully than to crank off the best alto solo over the chorus of Just Friends. I would much rather listen to that. I like the other two, mind you, and that's quite an intense rush when that happens, the rare times that it does. But I find that terribly exciting. When you see in a kid's face that they have, and there is something special about that moment when it all comes together and it just sounds, and there's almost like, God, did you hear that? And I saw that on my faces of some grade 7 kids this afternoon in a class. And they were just bubbling coming out of here because they felt that too. And they were happy to be here and it was exciting to do. And that made me feel very good, you know. And that, loving music and being able to share that it's the ultimate job.
There's an old musical joke, why do violins last hundreds of years? Because they hardly ever come out of the case. And I bring that up because I'm a brass player and you never miss an opportunity to rib the strings, but also because all the musicians we've met so far, they have one thing in common. They have to find a way to practice and practice effectively.
As far as practicing is concerned, you must have a plan. Practicing starts with a plan and making certain that you, with your teacher, have come up with a routine. Practicing needs to be predictable. It needs to be consistent in order for there to be progress. Practicing should not be a mindless sort of thing. This is a rehearsal, and I believe very strongly that you learn your part at home. That's practice. When you rehearse with other people, and you come to rehearsal not to learn your part, but to learn everyone else's. Percussionists will want to work on their rudiments, the snare drum rudiments, everything from 5-stroke rolls, to buzz rolls, to flams, to paradiddles, to flatamy-cues, all of those kinds of things.
Musicians want to keep improving, they have to practice things that they don't do well, which is the hardest thing in the world to do. And a lot of people who get fairly good at it and never sort of get past the barrier, I've found in most cases when they sit down and practice, they practice the things that are fun and that they do well, and it's just a great time to do it. And they don't work on the things that they can't do. A lot of days where I have a stiff neck from my head turned to the music stand for hours at a time, and headaches from concentrating on 4 bars of music for about 4 hours. But for me, it was just taking it very slowly, taking it piece by piece. And with the drums, you have 4 limbs playing, quite often different things. So it was just taking maybe 1 limb at a time and adding a second limb, adding the next one until all 4 were playing. So I'll start with the bass drum, my right foot. Then I'll add my left foot on the hi-hat, then my right hand on the ride cymbal, and then my left hand on the snare drum. A lot of times when I practice, I stand in front of a rubber practice pad for drummers, and I work most of the time just on hand technique. I've spent many hours in front of a drum set, practicing all types of things. But the last few years, the majority of the time is on basic rudimental hand technique. And I find if I keep that in shape, everything else pretty well flows from that.
Professional broadcasters have warned us against using actual information. So whenever actual musical information is about to appear, we will flash an on-screen warning. In this case, we're going to show you how a drummer takes a technical rudiment, the paradiddle, and uses it to play rock and roll. So here's the warning.
This program contains highly suggestive material, including explicit instructions and graphic depictions of mature musical activities. It may even reveal abstract concepts. Viewer discretion would be a relief.
Brass players, it involves buzzing on the mouthpiece. And it's amazing. I do a lot of clinics with young bands. I do a lot of adjudicating. And the number of brass students, young brass students that I come across who don't do this is incredible. The key to advancing your sound, your range, your flexibility, the intonation on a brass instrument comes through buzzing on the mouthpiece. And what do you buzz? You buzz scales, long tones. If you can't buzz a complete scale, you buzz scale fragments. You buzz lip slurs if you've gotten to that stage. You buzz the melodies in the music. And if you can buzz on your mouthpiece, your melodies in tune, and then take your mouthpiece, insert it in your instrument, and play. It frees up the sound significantly, and the ease with which you play is enhanced. For young players that are disciplined to do this on a regular basis, they will experience the wonderful feeling of getting a quality sound on the instrument. And when you get a quality sound and you experience the high that one would get with that quality sound, you want more of it. And so it's cyclical. So you go back to buzzing on the mouthpiece.
So I noticed in that last section on practicing, you didn't deal with the woodwinds at all. Is there any reason for that?
Well, actually, woodwinds are so easy to play that you don't have to practice.
There you go.
I'd skip classes to practice, or I'd not do an assignment because I'd rather practice, because I had a recital coming up or something like that. And because I felt that that was a lot more reputable. I mean, whether you can say to somebody, hey, I got a 90 on my history midterm, and then I can say to them, hey, listen to this. What's more meaningful to a musician? You know, knowing stuff about Mozart or like wailing on your instrument.
It was never something natural for me, so there's an exercise that Larry Teal recommends where basically you're dropping your jaw for the lower amplitude of the wave, and you do it basically at and you do that until you're sure that you're actually moving your jaw, and then you do it in eighth notes, and then in triplets, and then in 16th notes, and then in quintuplets and so on, and then you move the metronome a notch. And that's just the technical aspect of getting the jaw moving and being sure that the motion is correct for that form of vibrato. Then its application to the musical line would be half-note studies or whatever initially and so on. Oh, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrendous. You didn't want to be anywhere near where I was practicing because it was pretty raw.
I could happily spend 2 to 3 hours a day with the saxophone and never get tired of that every day. That would not be a chore.
It's, I just look forward to it. It's like a couple of hours of forgetting about everything else that's going on and just going and doing that, and it's relaxing, and there's no commercials like when you're watching TV, you know, nothing to annoy you, you just practice. As I got busier, getting older, you know, you stop listening to music. You haven't got an hour to sit in front of the record player and really listen to a tune, right? And I was missing that, and now, you know, you're not just goofing off, you're doing something, you're practicing, right?
Well, there's no interruptions if you're practicing, if you're working. I mean, there's an isolation aspect. There is an isolation aspect, and you're practicing and you're playing scales, and you're playing, and you try and shut off the noises from outside because they get in the way, and so you go into a little bit of a cocoon. I think people who practice go into cocoons, and they're isolated, and that's the best way to practice. And if you can't practice that way, then you may not be achieving what you want to do. You may be not getting back from the practicing what you really want to do.
I've come in totally distraught at a rehearsal thinking, oh, why am I doing this? And then as soon as you see the first person, you get going and you get into it, and then all of a sudden you conduct for 2 hours, and you know, you have to even, where am I at the end, you know, because you really got to rest from whatever it was that you might have come in feeling, you know, whether it was just like a busy day and you've got a lot of things to do and your head's cluttered, you get it out of your head for a couple hours.
I think it's like trying to get your golf swing perfect, you know. All you want is a perfect G. But the more you do it, the more perfect it gets. So it's always just a hair ahead of you, you know. If the tone gets better and you can sustain it longer and it doesn't waver off the pitch. And I think what sucks you into doing it is the same thing as the golf swing. You just want to get it just exactly right. And you just keep doing it and doing it. And of course, it never is exactly right, so you do it some more.
I have had members of our ensemble over the years come up and say, I had a religious experience during that piece of music when we played it tonight. You cannot move your listener unless you're prepared to move yourself.
have had an experience listening to music where I wasn't the same afterwards. I played a piece of music called Music for Prague by Karol Husa, and Karol Husa came in to rehearse and perform the piece with the wind ensemble. And it was like no experience I've ever had. It was the guy it was an emotional piece of music, but here he was explaining what this was and what that meant and what machine gun that came out of and what friends he lost. And the intensity that he got out of the band, but then the way it came through in the music was, I remember just feeling I was shaking at the end of the rehearsal. It was so intense and so unreal, surreal, amazing. And I had that happen to me once doing a solo recital with piano too. In the art gallery here, it was just like you just sort of forgot all of the technical concerns and didn't realize what was going on. It was just a focus on the music, and then just a feeling of being in the music, and then it was done, and it was like, oh, what happened there?
I developed an incredible admiration for good musicians. People have no idea what goes into playing an instrument well. I mean, we kind of revere our hockey players and basketball players and baseball players, and there are musicians out there that are unsung heroes, will never be recognized, but they're so skilled and so talented.
This is better. So there's lots still to do it, but thank you very much for your energy, your effort. Good night. See you Friday afternoon. Unfortunately, music education programs are at the mercy of administrators, both at the school level, at the school board level, and even at the government level. And in areas in which there is genuine support for music programs are vibrant, they're succeeding. The quality of performance is high. The quality of musical understandings with the students is very high. In programs where the support is weak, the really good teachers move on. They want to go elsewhere. And as a result of that, performance standards deteriorate, and student organizations become note-playing sessions rather than positive experiences for music making and music understandings.
You know, when I started in high school, there were no music programs. The music program was after school. We had to have, if we didn't have a teacher who said, I want an orchestra, we didn't have anything. And now it's the same thing. You know, 65 years later, it's the same thing. We don't learn from our mistakes. But then, of course, the accountants will tell us, and the CAs will tell us we haven't the money. You know, we got the money for other things, but we haven't got the money for that. And I think that's a very bad. I think that what governments have done to arts programs is terrible. You know, they've made us into almost, as far as arts are concerned, we're almost a third world now. You know? We weren't that way 20, 30 years ago. We weren't.
Well, Well, that last segment was a bit bleak, I'll admit. We really thought we should end this piece on a positive note, pardon the pun. So here's a look forward to a brighter musical future. Here's to the day when people set aside their golf bags and their channel changers and pick up their metronomes and their music stands. Here's to the day when Saturday afternoon is for practicing scales, not mowing the lawn. Here's to the day when serious music is bigger than pro sports. Yeah.
Welcome to After Four Movements. Yes, it's halftime here in Symphony Night in Canada, and what a grueling first half it was for the Island Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra. They tackled Ravel's Bolero and then plowed through Beethoven's Fifth. Now the players are just heading for their dressing room. We'll go backstage where Scott Napkins is standing by with a feature interview. Take it away, Scott.
Hi folks, we're backstage where the players are just starting their traditional butt break. Joining me now is principal trombonist Donnie Giovanni. Hi, Donnie.
Hey, Scott.
Don, the Bolero, always a tough piece. Seemed like the brass had a little trouble handling such an aggressive composer.
Well, yeah, we knew Ravel was going to be tough. The Bolero starts out pretty slow, but it usually gets going. It's got a real high tessitura, and that ascending modulation in the coda section, you can get caught up around the 10th harmonic before you know it. But the thing is, you can't be intimidated. You know, Ravel wrote his music one note at a time, and you just got to play him physical.
Don, the strings seem to get turned around a little in Beethoven's Fifth. That first movement should have been an easy play.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. Our guys have given it 110%, you know, and maybe the viola's got a little turnaround, blew a couple of entries, but I don't think it was totally their fault, if you know what I mean.
You're referring, of course, to the conducting?
Oh, you can call that conducting if you want to. I mean, I don't know if the guy's on medication or he's got some kind of Tourette's. His four pattern is like he's trying to put out a fire on the end of the baton, and he's cueing. Is he cueing the curtains or the stage crew or what? Give us a hint.
Well, of course, it's easy to blame the conducting, but you know there's been a lot of media speculation lately that many of these players are playing hurt.
Well, that's all you classical music reporters looking for something to write. I mean, there's no injuries. Everybody's healthy.
Well, what about the tuba player? He was bleeding from both ears when he came off the stage.
I think that's only natural, given that he sits so close to the horns. And don't forget, he's a tuba player, so they don't use their ears that much. It's just with the wind instruments, like I always say, it's the lungs and the fingers that are important, maybe the elbow a little bit with the trombone, but the doctor's given his lungs the green light, and the fingers, they're 100% with the freezing, so he's okay.
Don, the second half's coming up. What are you going to try to do different to get this concert under control?
Well, we just got to be patient, take it one note at a time. I think the strings have got to keep the pitches down, and the percussion's got to do a lot more hitting, and of course the conductor's got to score. I think the key is B flat minor.
Okay, Donnie Giovanni, thank you for joining us on After Four Movements.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, folks, for the second half of tonight's concert.